I watched my daughter through the diner window, table 7. The one by the window with the cracked vinyl seat she'd patched with electrical tape because she'd asked management 3 times and nothing happened, so she just fixed it herself. That's Amber, always fixing things herself. She was 22 junior year at Ohio State, pre-nursing, and 3 nights a week, plus every other weekend, she waitressed at this place on Morse Road. Not because she had to. I made decent money as a union electrician. We weren't rich, but we weren't hurting. She wanted to pay her own tuition. Said it felt better that way. Said she didn't want to graduate owing me anything. I stood there in the parking lot for a moment longer than I needed to. November wind cutting through my jacket, watching her refill coffee for an older couple, smiling like she meant it. Because she did. Amber always meant it. My phone buzzed. My brother Ted's name on the screen. Hey, you two still coming Thursday? Natalie's excited about the whole family being there. I smiled at that. Natalie was Ted's wife of 7 years. Thanksgiving at their place in Westerville, big new build in one of those subdivisions where all the houses looked the same but cost $400,000 each. Ted had done well for himself in commercial real estate. Regional director. Expense account. Yearly bonuses. Good for him. I meant that. We'd grown up in the same 2-bedroom house in Newark, sharing a room until I left for trade school. Amber and I will be there around noon, I typed back. She's working Wednesday night, so she might be a little tired. There was a pause. Not a long one, but long enough. So listen, Natalie wanted me to mention something. It's kind of a formal thing this year. Her parents are flying in from Scottsdale. Her sister and brother-in-law, some of their friends. Business connections. She wants it to feel a certain way. I leaned against my truck. Okay, it's just Amber's uniform. She'll be coming straight from her shift, right? Natalie's worried she might not have time to change. And with the Hargrove couple there, they're investors in her dad's new development. I stopped reading. Read it again. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. Hey, I was just, what exactly is Natalie worried about, Ted? There was that pause again. Look, it's not about Amber. It's just the optics. The Hargroves are coming. And they're the kind of people who notice things. If Amber walks in still in her work clothes, smelling like the fryer, she works in a diner. There's no shame in that. I know, I'm just relaying what Natalie said. Maybe Amber could change in the car. Or maybe come a little later after the cocktail hour. After the cocktail hour. After the cocktail hour. So after the nice part. So after she gets to meet everyone. After the photos, I looked back through the window. Amber was laughing at something the older man had said. She had her mother's laugh. Big and unguarded. Lynn had been gone 8 years now. Ovarian cancer. Amber was 14. We'll be there at noon, I said, and hung up. I didn't tell Amber about the call. She was excited. She'd found a cranberry sauce recipe she wanted to bring. She'd bought a blouse from Target, this dark green one, had ironed it the night before and hung it on her closet door. She'd been talking about seeing her cousins, Natalie's kids, Britt, who was 15, and Jonah, who was 12. They always seem so cool, she said while we drove up Wednesday night to pick up groceries for the cranberry sauce. Like they've been everywhere and done everything. You've been places. We went to Myrtle Beach 3 summers ago. She gave me the look she perfected around age 16. Dad. Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach is a great American city. She laughed. Sure it is. Thursday morning she came home from her closing shift at 7 a.m., slept 4 hours, and was ready by 11:15. Green blouse, dark jeans, little gold earrings her grandmother had left her. She'd made the cranberry sauce from scratch, had it in a Tupperware container with a bow on top. She looked beautiful. She looked like her mother. We got to Ted's at 12:10. The driveway already had 6 cars in it. 2 of them I didn't recognize. One was a silver Escalade with Arizona plates. The front door opened before I could ring the bell. Ted. He looked relieved to see us. Then something moved behind his eyes. Hey! Great, you're here. Come in. He hugged me. Said hi to Amber, started to reach for the Tupperware. Let me take that. Amber held on to it. I made cranberry sauce. I was going to put it out with the other sides. Of course, yeah. Ted looked past her. Past me. Come on in. Natalie appeared from the kitchen. She had on a cream blazer and dark slacks. Hair done. She looked like she was hosting a corporate luncheon. Her smile when she saw me was genuine enough. When she looked at Amber, it shifted. Just slightly, the way a light dims on a rheostat instead of a switch. Hard to catch if you weren't looking. Amber, you made it. She air-kissed near Amber's cheek. You look nice. Is that a Target blouse? Amber's smile didn't waver. Yeah, I love it. Lovely. Natalie reached out and took the Tupperware. I'll just put this in the kitchen. I think we have everything covered for sides already, but it's so sweet you made something. She disappeared. I watched Amber watch her go. In the living room, there were maybe 20 people I didn't know, men in blazers, women in dresses that said money without trying to. The Hargroves were easy to identify. 60s, deep tans, the kind of casual confidence that comes from never having worried about a bill. Natalie was already moving back toward them, the Tupperware set aside somewhere. Ted steered me toward the bar cart. Scotch? It's noon, Ted. It's Thanksgiving. He poured 2 glasses. Listen, things went a little sideways this morning. Natalie's really stressed about the Hargroves. Big deal. Just try to... Where should Amber sit? I asked. Ted took a long sip. We have a kids' table in the den. She's 22. I know. It's just, she's 22 years old, Ted. He couldn't look at me. The layout just worked out that way. Natalie did the seating. I didn't. Look, I'll talk to her. He didn't talk to her. I found Amber 20 minutes later. She was in the den with Britton and Jonah and 2 other kids. I didn't know who looked to be around 8 and 10. She was sitting on the floor because the folding table only had 4 chairs and the younger kids had taken them. She had a glass of water and the plate Natalie had handed her at the kitchen doorway. Turkey, 1 scoop of mashed potatoes, a dinner roll. No cranberry sauce. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, Jonah was just telling me about his travel soccer league. Jonah was already back on his phone. I sat down next to her on the floor. My knees were going to hate me for it. You okay? She lowered her voice. I've been in here 40 minutes, Dad. I offered to help in the kitchen, and Natalie said they had it covered. I offered to help carry dishes out, and she said the same thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be doing anything. You're a guest. She looked at me. Am I? That one landed. How long has this been happening? I asked. What do you mean, with Natalie? The way she talks to you. Acts around you. Amber was quiet for a moment. She picked at the edge of her dinner roll. Since Uncle Ted married her, I guess. She's always been a little, I don't know. Last Easter, remember? She made that comment about my scholarship. How it was sweet that I'd gotten a partial one because it showed I tried. I remembered. I told myself it was just awkward phrasing. 2 Christmases ago, she gave Britt and Jonah these big gift sets, like the really nice ones from the department store. And she gave me a gift card for a national chain restaurant. $15. I couldn't even cover the tip on that. I hadn't known about the gift card. She looked at me. I didn't say anything because Uncle Ted's your brother and I knew you'd feel like you had to do something and I didn't want to put you in that position. She was 22. She'd been protecting me. I pulled her into a hug. She was taller than Lynn had been. But in that moment, I held her like she was 7 years old. And we were at the hospital and I was trying to explain something I didn't understand myself. You listen to me, I said. You are the most capable, hardworking, kind person in this house. You work 30 hours a week, and you're maintaining a 3.8 GPA in a pre-nursing program that washes out half its students by junior year. You ironed that blouse last night and you made cranberry sauce from scratch, and you showed up here with a bow on the Tupperware. Because that's who you are. She laughed a little, shaky at the edges. We're gonna go sit at that table, I said. Dad. We're gonna sit at the adult table and eat our food and we're gonna hold our heads up because we have nothing to be ashamed of. Please don't make a thing of it. Amber. She looked at me. I could see her calculating. The thing she always did, the cost-benefit, the protect-everyone instinct she'd developed after Lynn died when she became half child and half little adult overnight. Okay, she said finally. We walked back out to the dining room. The table was set for 16. Long farmhouse-style rented linens, little name cards in silver holders. I found mine near the far end. Found Amber's. It wasn't there. I looked at Ted. He was at the opposite end, couldn't catch my eye. I picked up 2 of the name cards from seats near the middle of the table. I didn't look at whose they were. I set them aside and placed my hand on the back of one chair for Amber. A voice behind me. Those seats are spoken for. Natalie. Her voice was pleasant, the way certain dogs are pleasant right before they bite you. I turned. I know. I moved them. You can't just. This is a carefully planned seating arrangement. The Hargroves are supposed to sit there because of the lighting for the photos and then put them somewhere else. She stared at me. Around us, the room had started to quiet in that particular way rooms do when people sense weather. I'm not going to put my daughter at a kid's table, I said. She's 22 years old. She drove an hour to be here. She made cranberry sauce that you stuck in the back of the refrigerator. She sat on the floor of your den for 40 minutes. She's sitting here. Natalie's jaw tightened. This is my home and I have guests. She's your family. Or she's supposed to be. The table had gone completely quiet. 18 people with forks suspended. Natalie recovered fast. She had that skill. Her voice dropped back to pleasant. Of course. I don't know what came over me. I just got flustered with the arrangements. She laughed a small, practiced laugh for the room. The Hargroves chuckled obligingly. The moment passed. Or it seemed to. We sat down. Amber kept her eyes on her plate for the first few minutes. I kept mine moving, around the table, watchful. The conversation picked back up. Scottsdale real estate, the Hargroves' place in Sedona, ski season in Breckenridge. Then Natalie's sister, a woman named, I didn't catch it, something with a K, leaned across toward Amber. So what do you do, honey? I'm a nursing student at Ohio State. I also waitress 3 nights a week. Natalie, who had been in a side conversation, turned slightly. Just enough. A diner, right? The woman with the K name said it the way you might say something slightly unfortunate. Like a sinkhole had appeared in someone's yard. Yes. On Morse Road, I'll be honest. I have no idea how you young people manage. I couldn't do it. Standing on your feet all day for tips, Amber said pleasantly, and to pay my tuition. A man across the table, mid-50s, red-faced in the way of someone who's had several drinks before noon, leaned in. No scholarship? Partial one, Amber said. I cover the rest. Huh. He seemed to be doing math in his head about why someone would do that instead of just having their parents pay. I could see the calculation and the conclusion he arrived at. Natalie made a small sound. Almost sympathetic. It's so hard for kids who don't have the same advantages, isn't it? She said it to the room, not to Amber. But her eyes went to Amber. And there it was. Honey poured over a blade. I set my fork down. I set it down gently. I wasn't angry the way I'd been angry in other moments of my life. I was past angry. I was at that still, clear place that exists just on the other side of it. I think Amber has significant advantages, I said. The table was quiet again. She has the advantage of knowing what it means to earn something. She has the advantage of understanding that people who serve you food are human beings who deserve basic courtesy. She has the advantage of knowing she can solve her own problems because she's been doing it since she was 14 and her mother died. Amber's hand was very still next to her water glass. Your daughter, I said to Natalie, is 15. She has a car she didn't pay for, a phone plan she didn't pay for. And she spent 40 minutes tonight not speaking to any of us because she was on that phone. Your son is 12 and he was rude to my daughter in the den and didn't say sorry. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because you use the word advantages, and I think you should consider which of them actually has any. The man across the table, one of the Hargroves, I realized, cleared his throat. Natalie stood. Her voice had gone to that very quiet register that precedes something loud. I think you should go. I looked at Ted. Ted was at the other end of the table. He was looking at his plate. He was doing that thing where you make yourself very still hoping the situation will resolve itself around you. I looked at him for a long moment. Long enough that people noticed. Ted, I said, you can come with us. He didn't move. He didn't move, and I understood then that he wasn't going to. That whatever calculation he'd been doing in the back of his mind since Natalie started planning this dinner, he'd already made it. Keeping this life, this house, these people, this annual bonus she'd celebrated with him in the Outer Banks last summer, all of it weighed against one lunch with his brother and his niece. And the life won. It wasn't even surprising. That was the worst part. "Okay," I said. Amber and I stood. We walked to the entryway together. I got our coats from the closet. I helped her into hers. Natalie's voice from the dining room carrying that precise amount to reach us without appearing to shout. "Don't forget your little Tupperware on your way out." I left it on the counter. I picked it up, still full. She hadn't put it out. There was a decorative display on the entryway table. Natalie was proud of it. I'd heard her mention it to two different people during the cocktail hour. A crystal cornucopia, a thing she'd ordered from some artisan website for $260, filled with real pomegranates and dried citrus and those little white gourds that apparently cost $4 each. It was, objectively, a beautiful object. I reached out and moved it, not dramatically, not violently. I just lifted the crystal cornucopia off its base and set it upside down on the table with a sound like a small bell, and the pomegranates and gourds and dried orange slices rolled in every direction, scattering across the entryway tile, some of them going under the console table, one making it all the way to the front door. Natalie was in the entryway in about 4 seconds. The look on her face was a specific kind of fury that's also wounded. Because she'd built this performance so carefully, and here was the record scratch. "Thanksgiving," I said, "is supposed to be about gratitude. My daughter is grateful every single day for what she has and what she's earned. I hope your guests enjoy the rest of the meal." We walked out. The door closed behind us. The air was cold, smelled like dead leaves and wood smoke from someone's fireplace down the street. We got in my truck. I started the engine. Sat there for a second. "That was the cornucopia," Amber said. "Yeah. The $260 one she was talking about?" "Yes." She exhaled, long and slow. Then she started laughing. Not the way you laugh at something funny, but the other way. The pressure valve way. "I'm sorry," I said. "For what?" "I should have left with you earlier. When she put you in the den. I stayed because I was still hoping. I don't know what I was hoping." She leaned her head against the window. "It's okay, Dad. You came." "It's not okay. But I'm here now." We drove back to Columbus, stopped at a Cracker Barrel on 270, got a full Thanksgiving meal for $23 each, sat in a booth by the window, and watched it start to snow. Amber got the turkey and cornbread dressing and sweet potato casserole with the marshmallow top, which she said was the only correct way to do sweet potato casserole, and I said that was a deeply American opinion, and she said yes, exactly. We were there 2 hours. We talked about her program, about her clinicals coming up in the spring, about a professor she liked who taught pathophysiology and made everything click. She talked about her roommate's cat that she was technically not supposed to be attached to and was completely attached to. Ted didn't call that night. He didn't call Friday or Saturday. Sunday, I got a text. Just, "I'm sorry about how things went." I stared at it for a while. Then I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter and went back to what I'd been doing. He sent a longer message 2 weeks later. Said Natalie had been under a lot of pressure. Said the Hargroves deal was important. Said he hoped I understood. Said he'd like to have Amber and me over sometime in January when things quieted down. I showed Amber the message. She read it, handed my phone back. "That's his version of an apology," she said. "Yeah, what are you gonna do?" "I'm gonna let it sit." We let it sit. January came and went. February. Ted texted a few more times. I responded briefly, kept it surface level. I wasn't ready. I wasn't sure what I was ready for. In March, I got a call from Ted on a Tuesday evening, a time he never called. He sounded different, quieter. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Natalie and I are separating." I sat down. He told me the whole thing. The Hargrove deal had fallen through, which apparently had something to do with decisions Natalie had made without telling him. He'd started looking into the business finances afterward, and he'd found some things. A pattern of choices that had been made without his knowledge. Some of those choices involved the business partner she'd brought on last year to manage the development projects. A man he'd met twice and thought was pleasant. "The cornucopia," Amber said when I told her. I almost said it before he finished. "I know. Do you feel bad for him?" I thought about it honestly. "Yeah. Yeah, I do. Me too. She was quiet for a second. That doesn't make what she did to us okay. No, it doesn't. He called the next week, asked if we could talk. I drove out to Westerville on a Saturday, not to the house, to a coffee shop nearby. He was already there when I arrived, sitting with his hands around a mug, looking like a man who'd been awake for several nights in a row. We talked for 3 hours. He said a lot of things. He said he'd spent 7 years making himself smaller to keep Natalie comfortable, said he'd watched it happen to himself, and told himself it was compromise. Told himself that's just what marriage looked like after a while, and told himself so many other things he'd started to believe them. He said he'd seen the way Natalie treated Amber at every holiday for years, and he categorized it as personality differences, as social awkwardness, as things that weren't his business. He said Thanksgiving had cracked something open for him, watching me stand up, watching me say the thing clearly and directly. He said he'd been ashamed of himself since November. I let him finish. All of it. I'm not the one you need to apologize to, I said when he was done. You know that. He asked if he could call Amber. I told him that was between the two of them, that I wasn't going to broker it for him. If he wanted to reach out, he had her number. He'd always had her number. She was an adult. She could decide. He called her. She told me about it later. Said he cried, which surprised her because she'd never seen him do that. Said he told her he was sorry for every time he'd looked the other way. Said he wasn't asking her to forgive him. Just wanted her to know he saw it. All of it. And he understood now what it had cost her. She forgave him anyway, because that's who she is. But she told him there were conditions. He had to show up differently than he had before. Consistent, not just when it was convenient. He had to actually ask about her life and listen to the answers. And he did. Slowly, he did. He came to Columbus in April, took us out to dinner, a regular place, middle of the road, nothing to impress anyone. He asked about her clinicals. He asked about the pathophysiology professor. He asked about the cat she wasn't supposed to be attached to. He laughed in the right places. He moved out of the Westerville house in May, rented a place in Clintonville. Smaller. Simpler. He said it felt more honest. Started seeing Britt and Jonah every other week, putting in the work with them that he admitted he'd been outsourcing to Natalie for years. Britt was still angry. Jonah was confused, but he kept showing up. That summer, Amber started her clinicals at Ohio Health. She came home the first week talking about a patient she'd helped through a procedure, about the nurses who'd mentored her, about how different everything felt now that she was actually doing it. I sat on our back porch and listened to her talk for 45 minutes without stopping. And I thought about Lynn. How she would have listened the same way. How she would have had questions at exactly the right moments. I told Amber that. She got quiet. Then she said, I think about her when I'm on the floor. When I'm actually with patients. I feel like I understand why she chose this. Lynn had been an ER nurse for 12 years before she got sick. I'm proud of her, I said. I'm proud of you. We sat there while the yard got dark. It wasn't much of a yard. 40 by 60 lot in Clintonville, fence that needed painting, the flower bed in the corner that I kept meaning to do something with and never did. Nothing fancy. Nothing worth photographing. Ted came over for dinner that night. I grilled chicken. We ate at the old picnic table that had been on this back porch since before Amber was born. Nothing planned, nothing performed. Ted told a story about something that had happened at work, and we all laughed at the same part. It was quiet and ordinary, and it felt like something real. Before he left, Ted caught me at the door. I want to tell you something, he said. What you did at Thanksgiving. What you said about Amber. I've thought about it a lot. Okay, I needed to see that. I think I'd forgotten that was an option. To just say the true thing clearly, even if it cost you something. It cost me a cornucopia. He laughed. It really did. I meant more than the cornucopia. He got serious again. I'm sorry it took me so long. Me too, I said. But you're here now. I think about that Thanksgiving dinner sometimes. The cold turkey on the kids' table plate. The Tupperware with the bow. The cornucopia rolling across the tile floor. I think about Amber in that den, sitting on the floor next to a 12-year-old, who'd already forgotten she was there. And I think about the moment I stopped asking myself whether I was making things awkward and started asking myself what my daughter had already quietly survived. She's in her final year now, going to graduate in May. She's already applied to Ohio Health's new graduate nurse program at Riverside. Told me if she gets in, she'll be able to pay off the last of her tuition loans within 2 years. She'll get in. I have no doubt about that. None. And if someday someone puts her in a den on the floor and hands her a plate at the kitchen door, she will have a father who showed her what it looks like to stand up. Not dramatically, not to perform for anyone, just to say clearly, this is my daughter, and she deserves to sit at the table. That's the only thing I know how to pass on. That and how to wire a 3-way switch, which is also useful. She's earned her place at every table she'll ever sit at. She always has. I was just late to say it out loud. I've thought a lot about cause and effect since that Thanksgiving. Not in any abstract way, just the plain observable kind. The kind where you trace a line backward from where things ended up and see exactly how they got there. Natalie spent 7 years building a life around what things look like from the outside. The right house in the right subdivision. The right guests at the right table. The right cornucopia from the right artisan website. She curated everything, including the people, including my daughter, including my brother. And for 7 years it worked, more or less, because everyone around her was willing to make themselves smaller to keep the performance going. Ted made himself smaller. I made myself smaller every time I drove home from a holiday and told myself it wasn't that bad. Amber made herself smaller every single time she sat in a corner and smiled and didn't say a word about it to protect the people she loved. What Natalie never seemed to understand is that you can't build something real out of performance. You can build something impressive. You can build something that photographs well. But it doesn't hold, because at the center of it there's nothing. No actual loyalty, no actual respect, no actual relationship between people who see each other clearly and choose each other anyway. What she built with Ted wasn't a marriage. It was a stage set. And stage sets eventually come down. The affair was the thing that cracked it open, but I don't think the affair was the cause. I think the cause was much older than that. When you spend your life treating people as props in your own story, your husband, your niece, a 22-year-old girl sitting on a den floor eating off a plate handed to her at the door, you hollow out every connection you have. You end up surrounded by people who are there for what you provide, not for who you are. And when the provision stops, when the deal falls through and the image cracks, there's nothing underneath to hold it together. That's not punishment in any dramatic sense. It's just what happens. It's gravity. What I'm more interested in is what happened to Amber. Because she did everything right, and she did it without anyone making a rule about it. Nobody sat her down and taught her to work hard. She watched her mother fight through 12-hour ER shifts and come home and still make dinner, still ask about her day, still show up. She lost her mother at 14 and she didn't collapse. She adapted. She figured out what she could control and she controlled it. Her grades, her bills, her tuition, her own sense of what she was worth. She never let Natalie's opinion of her become her opinion of herself. That's not something you can hand to a kid. It's something they build from watching the adults around them navigate hard things with their dignity intact. I wasn't always the adult I should have been in that story. I stayed too long in that house. I told myself I was keeping the peace when what I was actually doing was preserving my own comfort. There's a difference, and it took standing in that den looking at my daughter on the floor for me to feel it clearly. What I know now is that integrity isn't something you talk about. It's something you demonstrate at the moments when it costs you something. When it costs you the holiday, or the relationship, or the $260 cornucopia, you either show your kids what it looks like to stand up, or you show them what it looks like to sit back down. They are watching. They are always watching. Amber's going to be a great nurse. Not because she's talented, though she is, because she understands something that can't be taught in a classroom. That the person in front of you deserves to be treated like a person, regardless of what that costs you in terms of convenience or comfort. She learned that from her mother, and I like to think she saw it confirmed one November afternoon when her father finally knocked something over.